and I'm looking forward to it. I think one of the reasons I'm also looking forward to it is most people would tell you that we got a 4-team race for the Heisman Trophy, right? We've got Cam Ward, who has the closest thing to Patrick Mahomes that we have in the sport, and as far as affecting winning and the playmaking he can have. Dillon Gabriel, who is the most effective passer in the sport, and will probably end this year with the NCAA career passing yards record and the NCAA career passing TDs record. Never mind that he played his 6th year and is quarterbacking the number 1 team in the country. Then you got Ashton Jeanty, who is chasing down Barry Sanders, we hope, right, but is far and away the best tailback in the sport. He's already rushed for more than 1,400 yards, pushed 1,500 yards. He's got a couple of games left where it feels like he can absolutely make a push, but Barry Sanders played 11 games, rushed for 2,628 yards. Give him another game, add another 200 yards to that, right? So it's closer to 2,800 that he would have, not 26. That said, Ashton Jeanty at Boise State, also Boise State, group of 5, Barry Sanders, Big 8. It's not really that comparable, but it is fun, right? And he's fun to watch. And as teams have just decided to load the box against him, and as you get tired later in the season, I expect the numbers to go down, and they have. Then you got Travis Hunter. And I don't know why folks like Booger McFarland need to say that Cam Ward is going to win the Heisman Trophy, knowing that Travis Hunter's going both ways, and he will play more than 1,000 snaps this year. He is doing what we have never seen done in the sport, ever. We've seen Patrick Mahomes. We saw him do it at Texas Tech. Maybe you heard about that game with Monday Night Football in Oklahoma, where he went for 734 yards. We've seen record-breaking passers like Dillon Gabriel or Case Keenum, if you want to put it there. We've seen record-breaking running backs like Ashton Jeanty or Barry Sanders. We have never seen someone put up the numbers that Travis Hunter has on either side of the field, right? On an FBS team, I might add, in a Power 4 league, and that affects winning at every level. He is your best defensive player. And I make the argument he's your best offensive player at Colorado. That's not shade to Shedeur Sanders. It's just what Travis Hunter means. And even Shedeur is going, I want Travis to win the Heisman. I know what he has done to do this. I know what he has put himself through. His conditioning is ridiculous. You know, he's running full speed, wide out and corner. And he takes away your best wide receiver threat, which I think is a bigger deal than him being your best wide receiver threat. So you already are having to work to number 2 because Travis Hunter's on the field. And 12 is also going to be open. And when he wants to go, he can go. He had 9 for 153 in the last game he played, right? Then they get the bye week. He can be the first player in modern history to have 1,000 yards receiving, 10 TDs, receiving TDs, and multiple interceptions. We've never seen that before. I believe in honoring what we have never seen before, especially when you're doing it against the best available competition. I realize that you'll tell me that Colorado hasn't really played nobody, and I would say the same thing about Indiana. I would say the same thing about BYU, right? Depending on how you want to feel about Kansas State or SMU. But I would say, show me a Cam Ward who's playing linebacker. Show me a Dillon Gabriel who's playing safety. Show me an Ashton Jeanty who's an edge rusher. You can't. And until you can, honor that Travis Hunter is your best wide receiver, your best corner, and while the Thorpe Award will not give him the Thorpe Award, and I don't believe the Biletnikoff Award, folks, will give him the Biletnikoff Award, the Heisman voters can make sure that everybody knows in 2024, Travis Hunter was the best player in the sport, and then take a look at what he had done in the more than 150 years of this sport being played and compare it to anybody else. His numbers are better than than Charles Woodson's at Michigan. They're better than Chris Gamble's at Ohio State. They're better than Andre Woolfolk's at Oklahoma. The company that he is keeping is quite literally Jim Thorpe. And Thorpe played before we started modernized football and integrated in 1970. And I tend to believe that most football that is played before 1970 shouldn't really count because we didn't have integrated teams. If we did have integrated teams, maybe it'd be different. But as it stands, Jackson State didn't want no part of Texas. Texas didn't want no part of Jackson State. It's just what it was. Texas didn't want no part of FAMU. Texas didn't want no part of Prairie View A&M. I wish they would have. And by the time you got to that space, USC was going to beat up on Bear Bryant's Alabama, and that's how we get here, right? I think that you got to talk about that team and that player in Colorado in that sentence. And you got to give Prime his props. You got to let him know that we appreciate you letting this man play both ways, because not another football coach in the country would allow Travis Hunter to play more than one position. It's just too valuable. Could Jeremiah Smith go both ways? Hell yeah, he could. Could Caleb Downs go both ways? Hell yeah, he could. Are they? No. So honor that is what they are doing. He is playing both ways. He is affecting winning. They're in a spot as one of the 20 best teams in college football to make the college football playoff and to have a road to a national championship for the first time since Darren Hagan and Eric Bieniemy, right? 1991. I always get them mixed up. The last thing I want to leave y'all with is I want to expand a little bit on a conversation that I have had about James Franklin and John Cooper and Ryan Day. So James Franklin is more in common with John Cooper than Ryan Day does. But if you are an Ohio State fan, you already know this history, and I apologize. If you're not an Ohio State fan, it's important that you know who John Cooper is when they use his name like a slur. So the Nittany Lions in the James Franklin era are 0-5 against the Buckeyes and Wolverines since 2022. He's 1-13 against top 5 opponents. But the Nittany Lions are also 18-0 against all other Big Ten opponents. So they're 0-5 against Ohio State and Michigan, or the teams that have won the Big Ten championship most years in the college football playoff era. He's 1-10 against Ohio State, and Ryan Day is 6-0 against him. So John Cooper arrives at Ohio State and promptly records the first losing season that the Buckeyes had since the 1960s, 22 years in 1988. Then he went to work. 13 years at Ohio State, John Cooper won a share of the Big Ten title 3 times, 1993, 1996, 1998. He finished with a record of 111, 43, and 4. That makes him the second winningest coach in Ohio State history. That's behind Woody Hayes, who's got 205. And you would think, that would matter. You would think that beating Notre Dame in back-to-back seasons, 95, 96, would matter. He also led Ohio State to its first Rose Bowl bid in 13 years and won that game against Arizona State in 1997. You think that would matter. He beat A&M in 1999, the Sugar Bowl. You think that would matter. And he recruited and developed some of the best players of all time, to say nothing of the best players in Ohio State history. We're talking about Heisman winner Eddie George. We're talking about Biletnikoff Award winner Terry Glenn. We're talking about Outland Award winner and Heisman finalist Orlando Pace. We're talking about Butkus Award winner Andy Katzenmoyer. We're talking about Thorpe Award winner Antoine Winfield, whose kid Antoine Winfield Jr. is out still making plays. And since we're here, y'all must have forgot that he also literally brought Alonzo Spellman, Straight Flush and Ahmad Plummer, Mike Vrabel, David Boston, Corey Stringer, and Joey Galloway to the shoe. So why do Ohio State fans hate John Cooper, who's done all this for him? He's 2-10-1 against Michigan. That's why. As the number 5 team in the country in 1995, Ohio State lost to an unranked Michigan, and a win would have got them to their first Rose Bowl in 9 years. And then as the number 2 team in the country, and already assured a bid to the Rose Bowl in 1996, they lost the game in Columbus to a number 21 Michigan. And then Cooper became the first coach to win a Big Ten title and a Rose Bowl at a Pac-10 and Big Ten school at the end of that year. And Ohio State fans say, what that got to do with us? We don't care about none of that. We don't care about what you did at Arizona State. We don't care about what you did at Tulsa. We care about what you're doing for us, and it ain't beating that team up north. 97, Charles Woodson made plays in all 3 phases, offense, defense, special teams, and Michigan famously beats Ohio State 20-14 en route to winning the 1997 national championship. That wasn't enough to fire John Cooper. 1998, Ohio State's ranked number 1 in the country, and then they're upset by Michigan State after starting the season 8-0. They beat Michigan, though, which is great for him. And then a win against A&M in that Sugar Bowl I mentioned, make them the number 2 team in the country. But in 1999, they finished 6-6, Ohio State's 3rd non-winning season since 1947. It's a program that has built a machine on winning, but it was Cooper's 3rd. And an 8-4 year the next year just led, and a loss to Michigan, by the way. It was like, all right, we're going to show this future college football Hall of Famer the door, because that's what it means. I think that is where James Franklin is now for Penn State. Penn State fans have had enough. They don't care about winning 9 or 10 games every year if you're going to lose to Ohio State and Michigan every year. They don't care. I don't know who you would go get. I don't even know that that's a move that is going to get made. I am saying that if you feel anguish as a Penn State fan, I understand. I really do. It reminds me a lot of what Oklahoma was going through after winning Big 12 championships, getting to the college football playoff, and routinely getting our heads kicked in. However, nobody at Oklahoma was ready to leave Lincoln Riley, but Lincoln Riley was apparently ready to leave Oklahoma. And so he has. And now he's at USC, where USC is 4-5 and Oklahoma is 5-4, and Oklahoma feels better about their guy than I think most USC fans do right now, even as both of them have changed up their starting quarterback at least once this year, with Lincoln Riley choosing to go to Jaden Mayava against Nebraska. But that's more about trying not to be new Nebraska, while Oklahoma's trying not to be new Nebraska in the SEC. All to say that if you're a Penn State fan, the thing you're going to hold on to is you can finish the season 11-1 and make the college football playoff. And then maybe you get a win, depending on where your seeding is. But if that team you got to play has a 5 or better on their scorecard, you might fold, because that's what James Franklin's teams have done against top 5 teams. Maybe that's the glass half full here, is that you get to the college football playoff and then you overcome that moniker of not being able to win the big game. And mid-game James gets to become big game James, because a lot can change. Get into the college football playoff and you start winning football games. I'm just not sure that is where we're going to end up with them. All right, that is going to do it for tonight's live episode of the number 1 college football show, where we are recapping the college football playoff selection committee's initial rankings. We'll see y'all on Saturday after we find out just who is still in this thing: Ole Miss, Georgia, LSU, Alabama, and who is not, and we'll go from there. All right, that's going to do it for me. Doses.